Okay, so I'm going to do a little introduction, not as long as I usually do, but welcome everybody. I know there's a couple of people here that are not Hillsdale people, or there may be Hillsdale. I got somebody from Pine Plains, so thank you for coming. All those that are from other libraries and from other towns around the county. We've been doing this for a long time. Pam has been our uh, expert guru technology queen for 9 years already. And she's an expert in cybersecurity. She's an expert in machine languages, or I should say, machine technology of languages other than English, because English is her first language. She's also an expert in generative AI, which is what we're going to be discussing today, which is very exciting. And there's always a little known fact that I like to tell everybody. If you've been on these classes before, Pam and I have been together for 9 years. And so I met her in September. No, I met you in July of 2017. And we started Tech Labs at that time in 2017. So her first class was in September of 2017, and that was on. And if you can believe this, it was 9 years ago. We're still talking about it now. Your first class was social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't even remember. There was something else in there that we were discussing, but we would teach, we were learning about it then, and that was still pretty new back then. So that was your first class, and we did that in person at the Rojan Library. That's when we were doing them in person. So that was in September of 2017. That was Pam's first class that she taught for Tech Labs. So 9 years later, we're still doing it. We're still at it. And Pam is, of course, an expert in all things technology. So we're really happy to have her always and continuing to do that. So thanks, Pam, for being here. This is the last class in our was going to be a winter session. It was winter, spring, summer now. We're at the end of it. This is a postponement from February, but this is our last class until we do it again, potentially in the fall. We'll see how that goes. But so thank you for coming, everybody, and thanks for doing it, Pam. We'll see you later.
Well, thank you. And like I said, we started this all pre-COVID, and then we started doing these Zoom classes during COVID for the tech labs, and it ended up being, a lot easier on everybody to be in front of their computers, not having to drive. So we kind of stuck with this format after COVID. And we're late because I actually presented on artificial intelligence in Puerto Rico. I was invited to be in a panel. Let me share my screen here a second. I'm going to make sure I share with sound. Wait a second. Share sound. Just
Pam, if you want to talk a little bit louder, please.
Yep, I
Just
will.
just a tad. It's okay.
Okay, so I have been published many times over in peer-reviewed journals on artificial intelligence. I'll put in the chat my website, so if any of these articles you want to look further into. So I was a second author in AI integrated literature discovery tools, also in securing meaning in language, which using artificial intelligence to translate cybersecurity policies in higher education. And most recently, this one, Paddling Without a Map, the unstructured rise of AI literacy and internet-enabled higher education. Some really egg-headed stuff. I am currently a doctoral candidate now. I did my proposal defense and was accepted. So I should be defending for my dissertation in December. Just bring this up here. So we're going to look briefly at some slides so that we're all on the same page on information and terminology. But honestly, AI, for me in any of these lectures, is a community conversation. Because at this point, artificial intelligence is touching seemingly every point of our lives. So if you have any questions at any time, you can put them in the chat, and Beth will let me know because she can see the chat even when I'm presenting. Or if you want to raise your hand and come on to the microphone and ask a question, please do, because this is something so big and so paradigm shifting that it does require an entire community of intelligent people to review it and to look at it and to decide where should the limitations be and where do we need to accelerate. So there are no right answers there, and it does require a collective intelligence to govern artificial intelligence. So So here is the main reason why everyone's talking about generative AI right now. It's here, the technology. It's been around for a few years now, and in technology, that means it's old. And on this graph that was provided by Microsoft, we can see that it took 16 years for mobile phones to have 100 million users. The internet took 7 years to reach 100 million users. Facebook took 4.5 years. ChatGPT took 3 months. Only 3 months. And if you think about how many people have cell phones these days, how many people are connected with the internet, when you consider how much this has been adopted and how quickly, this is why it's always in the news. This is why there's concerns about data centers. It is a technology that has been adopted faster than anything we've seen in human history. So the way AI works is it creates a library of all the digital information that's available. So everything that we put on the web, any ebooks that are out there, all of this is what it uses to create. So if we think of Netflix, if you log into Netflix, there's a ribbon that shows you movies that you might be interested in looking at and watching. And it's based on things that you've watched in the past. That's a form of artificial intelligence. So if you went to someone else's house and you turned on the Netflix, they'd have a different list of movies listed based on their viewing preferences. It tailors to what you might want to watch. Generative AI means that something's being created to please you. So if you went onto Netflix and it realized your favorite actor was James Cagney, your favorite soundtrack was John Williams, you loved robots, and you also like to have romantic comedies with a twist ending, that movie would be created for you with all of those elements, and nobody else had ever seen that movie before. So generative AI is taking puzzle pieces that you grab with a prompt or has been placed in front of you to create something that does not exist. And we'll turn on ChatGPT during this session, and we will create things with generative AI so we can explore that instant click of, wow, this is here now. But there's problems with that. Now, one of the main ethical problems with that is here on this slide, they're trained on data, and the data can be biased. So in my work, I am developing a course in Spanish for students who want to get a bachelor's in business administration. They can be from anywhere around the world, and they are taught entirely in Spanish. I actually used artificial intelligence to translate these courses. But the problem was adding images to this course because we had a hard time finding images of Latina women that were not sexualized. When we try to translate, some of the sensibilities and the culture references were all based in the United States. That is because the internet was created here in the United States. So when it's pulling to create something, it's going to grab what it knows and it's going to base itself a lot like Google on what would be the most popular thing someone would want to see. So for instance, if I asked generative AI to make me a classroom in a school, for hundreds of years, we had a teacher sitting in the front of the room. Maybe there was an apple on the desk. All the chairs were face forward at the teacher, with the students looking at her, and there was either a chalkboard or a whiteboard for the lecture. If you ask AI without any specifics, please show me an image of a classroom, it will generate all of this information because that's what the majority of the information is. So it's biased to this classic classroom. But if you dropped off children at classrooms today, you'll see there's a reading station, there's flexible seating. Very few classrooms have that rows of desks facing the teacher. It's more flexible spaces. But that's a new area of how we teach. So when generative AI tries to construct what you're asking it to construct, it's going to pick what's there the most popular. So this is why there is a bias inside of generative AI. Okay, and here is an article from Neil Shatoa, who's the advisor to the United Nations in AI. And he says, bias is an age-old problem for algorithms, in part because they're trained on data sets that are skewed or not fully representative of the groups they serve, and in part because they're built by humans who have their own natural biases. So if we think about, again, the data it's using to create, we have Reddit articles, we have Quora. How many times in our past have we seen things on the internet that were just like, oh my goodness, why does this person have an internet account? Why are they allowed to have a blog? So all of our human biases are baked into the training data because it's grabbing everything that's available on the internet. So this is exactly what a large language model is. So when we talk about generative AI and it's creating, and when I turn on the generative AI and we create, we'll see this. It has a library where it's harvested things that it thinks it can use to grab bits and pieces, whether it is an image, a word, or an item. So if I wrote a prompt and I said, what is the most favorite food? It'll grab pizza because in the United States, that algorithmically is what people want to eat. Pizza across the United States is a big deal. It won't go for calamari. But if you were in Little Italy, they might pick calamari over pizza. So it's always trying to match and take the least restrictive area to try and create something that you want to see. So a large language model, picture like a huge encyclopedia that they've harvested and said, everything you create, you're going to use this to make it happen. Okay. So here is one of the pressure points with generative AI. Generative AI does use a lot of resources. If you create an image or a video in generative AI, it uses the same amount of power as if your cell phone was completely off and no battery power, and you plugged it in and went to 100%. And the majority of data farms are not in residential areas. People don't want them in their neighborhoods because it ends up putting a drain on their grid. There's a possibility of your electric bill going up. So the only places where data farms can find space are in the desert. And if you've worked in the computer industry anytime in the last 40 years, you know that computers need to stay cool. They need to be kept very cool in order to perform or they'll crash. So if you worked at IBM, there was those heavy floors to support the servers, and the room was like you could hang meat in there. It was so cold. That hasn't changed. Computers still need to be kept cold. So this is why they say that artificial intelligence is draining water supplies, because the majority of farms are in isolated places like deserts. And this is why some industry people are trying to figure out how to make data farms in the ocean or data farms up in space, in a space station to keep them cool, in order to repair this need for lots and lots of power. So this is why when they have issues with data farms, and you hear this in the news about data farms coming or AI coming for this is why it's a concern, because it is a genuine, true environmental concern. But here's the other side of the coin. Here is a peer review, and the majority of adopters, the early adopters of this technology, are people who are financially challenged. Because with a simple cell phone, they can create a resume, they can write a cover letter, they can create a business plan, they can go through the answers to apply for a loan. And if you have limited funds and you're going to buy a piece of technology, the one you're going to choose is a cell phone with its tiny screen, with the inability to really move around. You can't put like Microsoft Word or a Google Docs on it and comfortably type and move files around. But with artificial intelligence, as we see in the next, we have to turn it on, you can quite easily create these items for yourself on that tiny screen. So the majority of early adopters have been those with lower income. Now we're going to jump into using ChatGPT. I'm going to turn on my account and we're going to go through it, and we're going to create some poetry. We're going to create a resume. And what we're going to do is not like a step-by-step cookbook of, here's how you too can use AI, but we can do that in a future class. Tonight, we're going to analyze why generative AI has been such an impact, why it has been so ground shifting in our education system that we have seasoned teachers just ready to retire early. So, drop out of here, and I'm going to go now to ChatGPT, and that is the generative AI that I'm going to use tonight. There's others. You'll hear Gemini, you'll hear Anthropic, you'll hear Claude. They all use the same stuff, the same style for creating things. So I'm going to go to chatgpt.com. It's a website. You can get it on any computer, and you can also download it as an app on your phone. And when I go there, I'm already logged in to my account. You would be prompted to log in. You can use generative AI for free. But what they do is eventually they'll say, oh, you want to do more? Well, you need Plus account. So it's a freemium model. So they're going to let you play with it and experiment with it for free, but it's always going to be stacked to limiting you that you'd want to actually buy the subscription. So before I continue, are there any questions before we go into the demonstration of generative AI? You can either put it in the chat or you can come off mic, because if you have any questions, even if you think it's something I should answer in the future, or something that brought you here that you want to know.
How much does an account cost, please?
An account with ChatGPT or Claude or any of them usually cost about $20 a month, but they have higher levels beyond that. They have enterprise levels and teams. So there's a wide variety, but the next step up from free usually sets you back about $20 a month.
And what do you get for that next level?
Well,
That's
for the
different
next
than your free
level,
account.
you get a deeper dive into the work you create. So let's create some work, and then the price structure will make a little more sense. So here on ChatGPT, it almost looks like Google. I have this Ask Anything here. So right now, let's create a poem together. That's one of my favorite ways to demonstrate generative AI. So I'm going to say, please write a poem about people on Zoom learning about generative AI at a library class. Now let's add some surreal elements so we know that this poem is something that's being created. So
Excuse me, Pam, are you demonstrating on a free account or is this a premium account or the
this
premium
is a
features?
premium account right now. This is a,
So,
yeah,
so the people that are here who have a free account, where we think everybody is going to use free,
they
can still
will.
do what you're doing.
Yes, they will. But I'll explain after we generate why it's different than what they would see as free. So write a poem about people on Zoom learning about generative AI at a library class. The class is interrupted by a dancing dog. By a dancing dog, and everyone is eating spaghetti. Why not? And oh, interrupted, spelled wrong. So this is not really happening. And the odds of something, a poem like this being on the internet, I think we can all agree is probably low. So when I hit this black arrow here, it will send this prompt and it will write a poem for me. Now let's do this now. And here comes the poem. And it took maybe a couple of seconds to generate this poem. And let's look at it. I'm going to read it out loud. Spaghetti night at the AI class. At the library on a rainy night, the Zoom room glowed with a pixel light. A dozen faces framed in squares leaned in from kitchens, desks, and chairs. Generative AI, the teacher said, can draft a note or plan ahead. It makes new text from what it knows, like soup from words a thinker chose. Then Mabel coughed and raised her hand with twirling noodles soft and grand. I asked it once to write a song, but the robots got the rhymes all wrong. The class laughed hard. The chat went wild. Someone's grandson waved and smiled. A fork was lifted, sauce was spread, and the prompts were typed while people were fed. So you can see here, let's see where the dancing dog should be in here. Let's see. And from tile in the row 14 burst the strangest thing they'd seen. A spotted dog in a sweater blue began to dance in full view. He spun beside a bookshelf tall. He moonwalked past a pasta bowl, barked 3 times, and took a bow as to say, I'm teaching now. So you can see within seconds, this somewhat surreal poem that I asked for was suddenly created. Now, here is why seasoned teachers are like, oh no, how do we assess learning now? Because they can do the same thing with an essay, they can do the same thing with a book report. They can do the same, all of these things. So teachers now and education now are trying to write AI policies to understand how do we assess learning in this new age where a student can just type 3 sentences and get a poem. I mean, it's not the best poem, but it's not half bad. And it did manage to get all of these items here. So now, the difference between free and paid. This is a pretty good poem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 9 stanzas. Not bad. But if I was in a free account, more than likely I'd only get 3 stanzas because it will do what you ask of it with the prompt, but it's only going to give you a taste because in the end, it's a commercial product and it wants you to buy. Or at some point, it might say, the server's busy right now. You can ask again in 5 hours. So here's where a financial inequity comes up, and this is where teachers are a little bit lost as well, because a student who can pay for an account can quite easily, in a couple seconds, create something with 9 stanzas, where a student who might be using a free account will get only 3, or they might be late turning in an assignment. So how do we, so they're trying to figure out, are we bringing back the blue books and making students write in the classroom? Do we try and figure out how to adopt this into assessment? Because it seems like something you would need in the future to be job ready. So do we embrace it or do we prevent it? How does this get in the way of foundational knowledge? And this is the dance that everyone is doing. And then there's like, well, if everyone can just make poems like this, is it worth the water? Is it worth the environmental impact? So the thing about ChatGPT is most people treat it like Google and they're like, oh, okay, well, I put my prompt and I got my response and I'm done. And I guess it was okay. What it is you build the conversation is iterative. So this is a playful poem, but let's say, can you make it a dark haiku? Spell haiku wrong, but a dark haiku. So I can ask it to readjust and change. So once again, I'm going to click and it thinks about it. And it says, Zoom faces flicker, spaghetti cools in the shadows, dog dances, lights die. So it has written a haiku, but it's also incorporated the main themes that we asked for: spaghetti, a dancing dog, and Zoom. And poetry and the use of language has always been an earmark of humanity. And there has been for years something called a Turing test, where they try and see just how well a computer can mimic a human being. And at this point, the Turing test has been passed and exceeded. Now, the other part of generative AI is this. It's not just text. I'm going to ask it, can you please make a poster of this poem? I would like a watercolor with diffused light and a small cat in the corner over the desk. So I'm describing the picture that I'd like to see. And now when I hit enter, and very rarely do I make images only for educational purposes because I am aware of the environmental impact that creating images is. But it's important to see just how easily it can be created. And right now it's working on it. And we'll see in a moment a watercolor of this image. And when it's creating an image, I'm asking it for a desk, I'm asking it for a small cat, I'm asking for diffused light. And it's going out, and just like it was hunting for words, it's hunting for images that match that until it merges it, almost like creating a quilt. So a quilt may have many, many different styles and patterns in it, but we don't consider who designed the brown piece of fabric with the yellow flowers and the blue piece of fabric that might have a kite on it, and how we only think that the artist took those pieces and sewed them together to create a new work called a quilt. And here we go. So this is the image that it just created for us. And I'm going to see if I can make it louder, bigger. So here you can see it included the spaghetti. Because we had asked for a dark haiku as the last one, it does make it kind of like an Edgar Allan Poe feel to it. We have our dancing dog. We have people in the Zoom class. They put the small cat in here for me. And it also put the haiku in here. And it made it dark. And there's something written on the, let's see, I want to see if I can zoom in on this a little bit because it looks like they put some words here. Well, plus. Well, that's zooming out. There we go. Let's see, because they added some notes here, and I want to see what they say. So it says Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on Zoom. Bring questions, bring spaghetti, bring wonder is one of them. And then the other one says tonight's agenda, what's generative AI? Models and magic, prompts that spark, ethics and imagination, create something. And a note that says creativity is messy, keep going. And it shows late night library class, ideas, prompts, and possibilities. There's something else on the wall here. The library is full of ideas. Some are still learning how to dance. And I didn't ask for any of these extra elements. So generative AI added the little notepad, added these images in here. And I'm quite enchanted with the work that it just created.
Yeah. And it's somebody
And
else's voice in there, like to write those extra things that you didn't prompt it to write.
right,
Who wrote that?
that
Where's
was
it come
generative.
from?
Well, that's part of the item with generative AI as well. I have been using it now for several years. So it kind of knows my sensibilities and what I'm asking of it.
Mm.
So it does start to mirror and sound like my own voice. I am someone who enjoys writing poetry. I am someone who enjoys all of these things. So again, when we're looking at generative AI, that looks fairly human created. You know, it doesn't feel robotic at all. And the reason for that too is the way I wrote the prompt. So here I says, please make a poster of a poem. So we've already asked it to build on something that has some extra energy to it, has some lyrical qualities. It says, I want a watercolor. I was very specific on the style of art I wanted. And I said I wanted diffused light. So by carefully describing what I wanted, gave me a very nice picture. If I just said, please make a poster of this poem and let it go, it may have seemed a little more cartoony. And what's happening there is what's called prompt engineering. When you use your words in order to describe what you're hoping to see, is an element of programming now. It used to be with programming a computer, you had to know JavaScript, C, Fortran. You had to know a very specific language to get the computer to do what you want. With generative AI, it is a large language model, and the more descriptive you are, the more flowery your language is, the more that you use adjectives as opposed to nouns, the better result you get. And we have been using Google for so long that we think of keywords, the nouns. We always try and input the nouns that's going to get us the best website or the most relevant website, where generative AI is more adjective driven. So the more adjectives you use, the better. Now here on the side, I have my chats. So let's say I was done for the day. I logged out of ChatGPT. Now it's a new day. And I'm like, you know what? That poem was good, but I'm going to be teaching this class again. And now I need a little different. I need something different. So on the left-hand side, under chats, I can see Zoom class interrupted. I can click and go back and add more to the conversation. I can ask it to change the poem. I can say, can you make a flyer for people to sign up? So I can do that, and I can keep working on this. Now that's the other place where they get you. I can do this because I'm logged in with a paid account. If you have a free account, you can do this, you can use it, but you're not going to find your saved chats anymore. So this is yet another way where they have this freemium model that they want you to keep using. Yeah. And again, making a draft of a flyer. So for anyone who's in marketing, anyone that's part of a nonprofit that does fundraising, then here's our flyer. And we got the dancing dog in the center. Let's get that. So you can see it. They added the details, the Zoom, what to bring, connect and share. So it just created the flyer for me to get people to sign up. Very easy. And anyone on a cell phone with the ChatGPT app or the Claude app or any of them could do the same thing. So this is why it's very attractive for those with low income, because they now can create something like this, which is a couple of sentences, and promote themselves, promote their bands, promote their business, write a college application, figure out FOSFA. So all of these things. Any questions so far before I continue? So next up, we just log into Suno here. Because we've talked so much about ChatGPT, there are others types of generative AI that's out there. In fact, TED Talk has just created their first TED Talk with an artificial intelligent script, an actor who does not exist, and they talked about AI and how it's changing the world. Now this is Suno. Suno just like before, where you write a prompt and you come up with ideas and it generates for you, you can do the same thing here. So if I go to create, which is over here on the left, and you can have it write a song for you. Right now, there are 3 generative AI created songs that are in the top 40. So let's make one about the Catskill Mountains and the Hudson Valley in the summer. What style of music should it be? I'm doing folk, rock, pop, 60s, British invasion. Just give me one
Folk, please.
folk music. Okay. Folk music. We want to do an acoustic?
Sure.
Acoustic. Okay. Acoustic with mandolin and guitars. Okay. And then when I hit create, just by typing those words in there, it starts churning, just like we created that image. And it will create a song for us. And it will give us 2 styles. And you can see here we got Catskill River Road, Catskill Summer. So we already have a song created. And I'm going to hit play now so we can listen to the song. And it was set to instrumental here. And I can actually change it to someone who's singing along too. And the voices are, we'll try this one, just 2.
Will it just make up the lyrics? What kind of lyrics is it?
It will. Or you can ask it to add lyrics. You can add your own. So if you're a poet, it'll write its own lyrics. Let me see this one. These ones are not showing. Here, let me go. I'm going to show you one that has some lyrics with it. This is a
cruising down the lane so free with sparks of magic in the air. Engine humming.
Okay, so that was one I did in a past one. For some reason, it just felt like doing instrumentals
So
tonight.
Pam, let me come from a layman's point of view here. So Suno is the chat GPT for music or something like that,
Correct.
right? This is the AI
Yes.
version of music creation,
Right. Instead of creating text,
right? And I'm
creating
sure there are other
images.
platforms that you could create music
Yeah.
like this also.
Yes. And
As
you can see here, it says upgrade for full song, upgrade for full song.
right.
You know, so again, it's the freemium model. But the music is listenable. I don't think it's got the soul of a real human being. I'd rather listen to Pete Seeger,
Right.
100%, 1,000%. But it also, this is another way that people are creating. So they're
Right.
using generative AI and they maybe didn't go to film school and they've never picked up an instrument,
Mm-hmm.
but they're using this to create the soundtrack to the movie. And then they're going to ChatGPT and creating the flyer for the premiere of their independent film. And what they're doing is typing. So
Sure.
here is where the Screen Actor Guild is concerned. This is where you get that intersection of people saying my jobs are
Mm-hmm.
in danger. This is why you have Gen Z students booing people like the leader of, of Google, because they feel like any entry level jobs are not going to exist for
Right.
them because it's so much easier to type 3 sentences and create music than it
Mm-hmm.
is to get the band together, put them in
Mm.
the studio, get the producer. You know, you're saving yourself thousands and thousands of dollars.
Sure.
And in the end, do people really feel like they are lacking? You
Sure.
know?
So aside from all this editorializing, Sharon wants to know, going back to the flyer that you made, or even
Mhm.
the graphic, she wants to know what the resolution and the format is of that graphic. Is there
Sure.
resolution that tells you? I mean, you have the
Mhm.
enhanced version. It's not a free
Yeah,
version.
not the free version, but here
So
I can have the aspect ratio of which I'd like it. And
you can ask for specific
yep, and I'm going to hit
relation.
the download button now so you can see that it's 2.8 megs.
Right.
So it is of high resolution that it's creating. And I'll put it in, so I'll open it here in Clipchamp and I'll zoom in very tight. So it's fair resolution. Right now I'm zoomed up to 500%, but 200% is usually print quality. So
Again, you have the enhanced version. You don't have the free version.
exactly.
Yeah,
So you may get a lower resolution.
right. But creating like flyers, I mean,
Than,
like I would love to do something like this. Or could have for
Mhm.
the library, we have a party that's coming up. And of course, AI would be a really good tool to use to create something that I certainly can't do because I don't do graphics and I don't know how to really do it on a Word document. So that
Yeah,
would be a certainly a function of it, right? That's something you
yeah,
can do with
yeah.
the text part.
Yes.
I don't
And
know
the
about the
other
song
part
stuff.
too, I'm still sharing, right? You can still see my screen.
Yeah.
Here
Let's,
too, what many people use as well is it's not just prompting. Here, the plus sign allows you to upload or add or do a web search.
hmm,
So I can go find like maybe the zoning laws for my town, some legal documents that are just so much. So here, I'm going to use this paper here because it's pretty deep. This is a 35-page peer-reviewed paper on inclusive AI literacy. And if I ask it anything, I can say, can you summarize
hmm.
this in 10 bullet points?
Wow.
Instead of reading all of that text,
Mhm.
and I'll show you the original while it's getting there.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yes. So for many people, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger too, so it's a little easier to read on the screen. Yeah. So it says that it argues, it has 2 resource questions, it talks about the methodology, the findings, and then I can ask specific questions of this document as well. I can say, what is the research question, and can you explain it to me like I am an eighth grader? So you can ask it to level down the high academic that's there. So the study is asking why colleges teach people about AI and why they're making lessons fair and helpful for everyone. So it summarizes this huge 35-page peer-reviewed document and puts it into chunks. And not only that, it gives me chunks that I can read quickly and decide if I need to read this deeper or if it's something that is relevant to me or not. So it allows you to go through. So for a student who might, have an ebook of, To Kill a Mockingbird, they could upload all of To Kill a Mockingbird and ask questions about the book specifically. And that says, and here it is in simple terms, are colleges teaching AI and it works for all learners? And how do they know the students actually learned it? So it drops it into very, very easy chunks to understand. And I can even go further. Can you quiz me on it? So if it's something you're trying to learn, you can do that. And I'm going to add one other item here. I'm going to put HVAC. I think my HVAC system here. Here's where I saved myself $1,000. So back in December here at this house, it was cold in Florida, believe it or not. And I sent a picture and I said, listen, I can't get my house to cool. Well, this was another time. It says it's 83 in here and I can't figure it out. And there's no AC happening. I took a picture of my thermostat. And it said to me, okay, here's some important clues. Let's check. And it told me, go outside, check the AC unit. Ask me, is it spinning? Do I hear a humming sound? Then it asked me to look at my circuit breaker. It says, and look for one labeled that, and then see if there's any half-tripped ones. Then it said to make sure that there's usually a small gray box out by the wall. Make sure it's fully on. So it helped me diagnose. And I said, well, yeah, it's spinning and humming. Check if there's air. So it made me go through all these diagnostic steps. And it came down to that it was a capacitor belt that needed to be fixed. So my HVAC guy, I said, my capacitor belt needs to be fixed. He came in, he fixed the capacitor belt. There was no 2 hours of time trying to fix it. And then in another instance, I asked how to cook some dinner because I was exhausted and I was tired and I needed recipes. And I took a picture of the contents of my refrigerator and I said, add files. I said, I added, take my picture and I'll put, let me see. Recipe. A couple of this word. Let's see, let's try refrigerator. I have dysgraphia, so spelling is a trouble for me. Refrigerator. Okay. Let's see here. So identify prices. Let's try food. Food cost per pound. So here we go. So here, I gave it a list of the food that I had available to me. I have chicken, mushroom, zucchini, mustard, and melted cotton candy. Can you make a recipe for me? And I did this because I wanted to do something, again, bizarre. And it gave me some images of what my food might look like. And it gave me a savory, sweet mustard, chicken, mushrooms, and zucchini. And it says it was cooked, add the sliced mushrooms, serve warm. And it says the cotton candy behaves like spun sugar and adds a caramel note rather than chaos. And then I asked it, how confident are you of this recipe being tasty? And it says, it's probably a 2 out of 5. It's safe. There's no ingredients that would, be problem. And then, it's not going to cause anybody any, gluten-free allergies and stuff.
Oh,
And
funny.
allergens. So, so you can continue to ask. So you can find out recipes, you can ask for how-to stuff. So
It's very funny.
again, it is pretty funny, but it also, because it can use images, I'm going to stop sharing here. Stop sharing, here we go. Because it can take an image and recognize what's in the image, there's doing some groundbreaking work in accessibility and accommodations. So I have a friend who is completely blind, and through the years, he has always been shortchanged because a dollar bill is the same shape and feel as a $20 bill. And he'll get his change, and he's maybe owed 20 bucks in change, and he's given a $5 bill. This has been a persistent problem his entire life. Now with artificial intelligence, he takes out his phone, he holds the camera in front of it and says, that's a $5 bill. Or to say, that's a $10 bill. So he knows he's getting the correct change now. And he said his health is improving because it can read the ingredients on cereal boxes and soup cans. I mean, if you think about every cereal box feels the exact same way. There's no way to tell. He has to go shopping with someone and then put them in alphabetical order, Cheerios, Lucky Charms, Wheat Germ. So he knows which cereal it is. Now he just holds up his phone and it'll say, third box to the left is your Lucky Charms. Or it can read the back and he knows the sodium content.
Wow.
We can look at the world in front of him and say, okay, yeah, straight ahead of you to the left is where the Starbucks is. And there are 2 people standing out in front talking. One of them's wearing a red sweater, like the person you were supposed to meet is supposed to be wearing a red sweater. So, yes, artificial intelligence costs a lot of energy. Yes, there's the potential for cheating in our schools, but there's also a potential of opening up a world to someone who may be nonverbal or have no vision. So we're kind of right now caught in a dance of where do we go with this next? And I know we're at 7:00, and I will stay and answer as many questions or any questions you might have.
There were a couple in the chat, but back to Marie wanted to know, is Suno a free site and then you upgraded to pay for it, or the one that you had? If you want to
Yes.
play a song, if you want to create a song for your significant other person or somebody you love, you can create one for free, I guess, on Suno.
Suno, you can create one for free, and you can create a couple full songs for free because they want you to try it out. So you could make a birthday song or something tailored to someone. And then it'll prompt you at some point. And also, after you've created the song, if you wanted to change the tempo or change a lyric, you have to pay in order to edit or change your song. So again, they would stack it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Sharon had a question also.
Yes, Sharon.
So Sharon had a question about, is there a choice of output formats? And I'm not sure, Sharon, what you were speaking about.
No.
Probably you just get, I mean, can you print out what you created a poem or an essay, you wrote something. Can you print it out as is? But it comes out as whatever document platform
or
you're
you
on,
can
right?
copy and paste it. Or if it's a picture or a video, typically they're PNGs, but you can ask it to create a TIFF or a GIF if you wanted to. And it will do the conversion for you. Or if you have a picture that you want converted, you can upload it and say, can you change this to a JPEG? Or can you change this pages, Mac pages to a Word document? You can do that. Or if you just have a flyer like the one we had, and want, can you extract the text from this flyer for me? It'll do that. So
Oh,
it will change formats for you.
yeah. I don't have a question, but I do have an observation, or at least something, a tidbit to tell people that have stayed on or still here, just what I've used recently, which is just simple stuff. But I'm going on a trip in September and I want to know about certain areas that I'm going to be in Spain. And I asked about restaurants, and this is through AI, and it was definitely on Google. It's like the AI mode. It was all just part of the basic Google search stuff. I wanted to get comparison of restaurants in a specific area. I wanted to get certain areas or this beach that I've heard about. Tell me about it, and it gives me incredible information. Um, it just saves me a lot of time in researching what this is, and it gives me lists of, oh yeah, this place is great. Don't go to this place, or this is high end kind of thing. And just like you said, you prompt it with questions or specific information that you want, it gives me a whole list of things. So it's been very helpful in planning certain parts of this trip, going on the AI mode, whatever that is. I don't know if that's Chat GPT, or I don't know what it converts to from a Google standpoint, but it's like Google AI, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
guess.
Gemini under the hood. So
Okay.
that's, you can pay for Gemini, but you can also use Gemini for free as
Right.
well. And that has, when you talk about large language models, OpenAI has like combed like the public internet, but Google is pretty much anything ever created in the Google universe, whether it's Google Suite has trained it. So it's starting to become more popular than ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Carolyn has a very interesting observation in her chat.
I see that.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
And yeah, very informative for sure. But thank
yeah.
you.
I said, and I will see you. I know we're a little bit past the hour, so if you want to drop off at any time, I'm conscious of your own schedules. But if you have any questions, I will always be the last person to turn off the lights in this Zoom. So I will stay and answer any questions you might have. Um, but yeah, it really does make you question what makes you a human, because it always was language, art. And these are the things that it's actually being trained on to recreate. These are our emotions. Well, now it's trying to match emotional intelligence as well. So it's it's very interesting, sometimes terrifying to be working in the AI space the way I do. I always hope for the best. I always hope that the best actors will come up with the best things.
Mm,
I saw a video of someone who has been nonverbal due to a traumatic brain injury and only could do yes or no's with eye blinks for 10 years. They created an app using ChatGPT, and with this app, the person now can construct sentences and speak and talk to
mm,
his family and say what they've meant to them these last 10 years and give his preferences for something simple like what he wants to watch on TV. He's quadriplegic, he's been nonverbal. And he's like, I'm not a Barney guy. Can actually put like Yellowstone on, please? Because I'm still a grown-up under here. I'm not a vegetable. So being able to be unlocked like that using artificial intelligence is important to me.
mm. Like you said, there's good and there's bad to it, or there's definitely
Yeah.
many different opinions about it, and
Yeah.
certainly, um, you
And
know,
all the opinions
and
deserve
it's
to.
all we want is things to be used for good, but sometimes it's not, and we have to
Yeah.
kind of discern what is
Right. The
the right way to
military.
use these tools.
So this is why it needs to be a community conversation and something that has been moving so fast, we really haven't had a chance to pause and reflect. And as a community, it's important that we do, because it is a powerful tool. I mean, just small little steps that I've shown here just shows how powerful it is.
I'm just going to have to speak about this. I don't understand that the criteria is to have speed and instant thing. It's taking away. I mean, I've been a dancer, a creative artist, and working in gardens, and I don't read books. I listen to what I get it from nature. I get it from the rules of the laws of nature. That is, and I've worked and what it does to, I just don't it scares me what's being done. And I think that if you're just saying that you can help certain people, use it for that, but don't use it to pull
Mhm.
away young people that I've been within schools for years, for 20, 30 years. I go into schools and I can understand that there is no, I mean, the teachers are like, these kids are going to be robots. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, you need foundational knowledge in order to write a good prompt. And without foundational knowledge, the bias, the hallucination, they'll buy into it and they'll believe it. Because another problem with the AI is syncopantic. It
Yeah.
wants you to buy the next level. So it'll
And
always make
that
you feel
is
like you're a
just what
genius.
all business is about. It's about trying to get
Mhm.
True.
it's just advertisement. It's just another form of
Yeah.
advertisement. And
Yeah.
I really don't like that. We have
It's
enough
a
of it in
tool.
it.
It's just another tool that you can buy and you can add to and just spend your money on to create something that you want. It's about what your need is, what you
Is it an
want.
addiction?
Yeah, it can
I
be.
think it can be because
Yeah, I think it can be
I
too.
think individuals can get a dopamine rush for creating, like we created that flyer just now.
And we all went, wow.
Wow, that's
Everybody went,
or something
wow.
with the
Yeah.
poem. And when all you do is a simple act to create something of that quality, there is a dopamine rush that an
Hmm.
individual can feel.
Right.
The creative spark that's in all of us does exist, but they're getting that buyout without paying for it.
Hmm.
They're not doing the time with nature, they're not doing the things. But I will say though, after a while, I mean, what we saw, the poetry was impressive, the flyer was impressive, the music was impressive. But if you spend 6 hours looking at the same stuff, you start to realize the pattern and the lack of human spark.
Right. Yes.
So
And
I
spirit,
feel
human
like
spirit.
that human spirit doesn't,
Yeah.
it's a simulation, it's never actual. So I
Hmm.
feel the genuine artists and musicians and creators and writers,
Oh, they're very angry about this, actually.
and they can be.
Yeah, they
I'm
should
okay
be.
with that. I
Yeah.
am completely okay with that. Like I said, there needs to be a balance with this technology. It's
Right.
moved too quick for the balance to happen.
Right.
And this is why community conversations like the one we're having are important.
Right.
How
You
can
know,
it ever roll back once it's out
yeah.
of the genie
It can't.
box? I
No.
think that it's not. And it makes me
Sad.
No,
not
there's
sad.
Sad.
Makes me want to go on to another life.
Yeah, well.
80
Hey,
something person.
Marie, I don't know if Marie's still on. So Marie Marie asked a good question, and I have to say, I think it does. Marie asked a question, do you think that
yeah,
AI will ever add a cue or some sort of, marking that says that it is AI?
yes.
That you're asking, if you said to it, are you artificial intelligence?
Mhm.
Are you making this up, or where are you getting this information from? I think my
Yeah,
husband asked once about
yeah.
that.
And in
Mhm.
academia, we actually
Answer.
have citations from APA, Chicago style, where if you're using like an image or a chart or an infographic, they have a proper citation for citing AI as it's creating that generative work.
Right.
And
So
it's
I
just,
mean, it will admit
it
it
will
being,
admit it.
yeah.
And there are other like Sunu, any of the other art will have like a watermark in there.
Oh, really?
There's there's telltales with just how it writes as
Mm,
well, because it a lot of times if you read anything from AI, they use M dashes a lot, which is like the extended dash,
Mhm.
usually a telltale that was written by AI, or it will kind of filibuster by using contrasting language. Like it's not that
yeah.
we're doing this, what's really happening is this. And you get this seesaw effect with the writing where it's a lot of contrasting. So you start to recognize that as well. So you spend enough time with the AI, you realize that, this just doesn't feel human to me. You
Hmm.
know, there is an element to humanity that I feel like will become more and more precious. That people will all start sounding the same, looking the same, creating the same, and that sameness um, is the antithesis of what makes us human. We always want to stand out. We want to be something stronger. So I feel like we're in a point right now where everyone's happy with being the same, and that is going to crumble. and the artistic spark is going to jump ahead and make people realize that what they see is wooden.
Mhm.
Well,
And
thank
that's
you.
what we're trying to teach in schools.
Just
So,
one last question. How do
Mm.
I get to see all these things that have been here for your lab? Just tell me what your, how do I log in to see the last three programs? Because I missed it, except for,
sure. Well, there is at the Rojan Library's website, which is the Roloff Jansen Library in
Community library. Roloff
Community
Jansen
Library.
Community Library. Actually,
uh-huh.
it's Rojan Library if you want to go
Yeah.
.org. The
And I'll put
website for the Rojan Library
that
is,
all of, I think it's like all 9 years of the
I don't
online.
know,
And
I don't know how many, but everything that's been recorded is on the website.
But
or
it
I can
does
go
take,
in and they can show it to me.
yep, I'll get the link for you. The, and it takes a couple days, because we try and make the videos
Few
accessible
days.
and
Yeah,
attached.
yeah.
Believe me, I'm not in a hurry.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
am
this
going to
video
stop
will be.
recording this. I'm sorry, Pam, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm going to stop recording this now. I don't think we need to
No,
continue on,
I
but
thank you very much for the time.
yes, because you will find this recorded on the Rojan Library website, as there are previously, and I don't know how many years it goes back, but you will be able to
No, I'd like
um,
just the ones on really the
get them all.
AI. I don't need to
Right.
go back to the other.
And I have, my email address is in there.